This episode is sponsored by MJ's Progress Not Perfection Meeting Center Association. We are in our meeting center where we do all these meetings for mental health and addiction. I can do this podcast anywhere. I can do this at home. I can do this in a closet. I can do this in a basement. It doesn't matter. All I need is somebody else to talk to about addiction and recovery. What I can't do from anywhere is help people with their addiction and their mental health problems. So if you can help out, we do have a Venmo, we have a Cash App, we have a PayPal, we have an address you can send a check to, and all the money that gets donated goes towards rent, goes towards keeping the lights on, and goes towards keeping the internet on. So please, if you can give $5, $10, $20, it doesn't matter. Anything you can is so appreciated. And if you are a local business, if you're a national business, whatever, and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you can reach out to me and we can talk about how you can be a sponsor. But I'll let you get back to the episode.
Welcome to the show, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So how much clean time do you have now?
I have about 6.5 years. So July 20th, 2015 was my day of surrender.
Okay. Now, what was going on July 19th of 2015 that you were like, I need to get clean?
Trying to do something different. So basically, I feel like I burned every bridge. It got so bad, even my own grandma wouldn't let me come over there. I also had gotten into a little bit of trouble where they gave me 4 years of first offenders probation. And the judge said, for the next 4 years, you have to, pass a drug test and not get in any trouble. And basically I was like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of backed me into the corner. I didn't get mandated per se, but it was like a little nudge from the judge, like, hey, you better do something here. And so that was when I started kind of looking for some different facilities. I was homeless at the time. I remember I was walking down the street. It was like a major busy road. I was trying to figure out where I was going to stay that night, how I was going to get high. I had a garbage bag on my back full of my belongings because that was just, I didn't have a home. And so trying to figure out who I could get to get me one more night in the hotel room, get me high one more time, And a friend of mine called. She had just got out of prison, she'd been in there for like a couple of years. We used to sell dope together and stuff. And so she calls me up and she's like, hey, I'm going to this sober living facility in Athens and I think you should come. And it was just like something happened in me and I just threw my hands up and said, yes, I will go. And, that was about 2 weeks before. And of course, in the next 2 weeks, I tried to find every single way that I could not go.
Yeah, you're trying to talk yourself out of it almost like, it's easy to talk ourselves out of things, especially how long had you been like in active addiction?
Oh my goodness. So I took my first drink at 11.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch it. Captain Morgan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Took a shot, drank a big glass. I had a bad day at school. I got bullied a lot in school.
I'm not laughing at you getting bullied. I'm laughing at I had a rough day at school, so I had to come back into 5th grade and with my algebra homework, got a nice shot of.
Okay. Yeah, those are my coping skills. And it was learned because I grew up in a household with an alcoholic father. And, that's what he did when he was stressed out. He had
Where's the bottle? Dad, is timetables, and I can't do this shit.
Right. It was terrible. I lost the spelling bee. I don't know what to do anymore. I give
up. No, I get it because but in 5th grade, it's the same thing, though. We were watching The Outsiders. We just wanted to drink and be cool. And then in 6th grade, somebody died, and then we're like, well, if we drink, it'll be better. So it's a learned behavior, and it's no fault to our own. It's just, it's our own coping skills that we think that it's our way of survival. What we think we
Right.
need to do to survive in that moment in time, because you're almost too proud to ask somebody how to do something, because you can finally think for yourself at that age, and you're like, I want to do it on my own and figure it out on my own. Are you the oldest or the youngest or the only?
I am the oldest of
And it's
three.
And so am I. And when you're the oldest of three, you really don't have like big bro or big sis. What do I do here? You're figuring
Right.
it out, and you make the mistakes so that your younger siblings don't have to make the mistakes.
Right. Definitely trying to like protect them. Like I said, with my father growing up in an alcoholic household, he was one of these where, I would come home and I would not know what kind of situation I'm going to come home to. Am I going to come home to daddy wants to watch scary movies and eat snacks with me today? Or am I going to come home to him, beating the hell out of my mother and smashing everything in the house? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate. Was it a sister, a brother? What were your siblings?
So I have a younger sister and a younger brother, 4 years younger and 5 years younger.
Okay,
So
so kind of significant of a difference in age between you and the others, because that makes a difference, because that means you're the only child for the first few years of. Then all of a sudden there's boom boom, there's two other kids, and then there's mayhem, and then you're kind of left off to the wind to figure your
right,
shit out, because it's craziness to raise a 2 and a 1-year-old at the same time. The 6-year-old, she knows, what
right.
you're doing.
And my parents had me when they were like 15. So I try not to put like too much like, bad will on them. Like, oh, you did such a shitty job raising me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but
no.
we're freaking 15 years old. Like, what can I expect from you at that age?
How old are you now, Jamie?
I am about to be 42 in July.
Man, opiates keep us young. You don't look 42. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and that proves to the point even more so. So when your parents were 15, it's not like they could Google shit to be like, what do I do with a screaming kid? You're really figuring it out, and they're not even reading a book. They're not even reading their homework. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? They're really, what was it? Which show? Oh, me and my wife, we watched that show, Raising Hope. And it's hysterical, and it's about like 15-year-olds had kids, and then this kid had a kid when he was like 20. So now they're in their 30s and are helping their grandparents, and are helping their
Oh,
20-year-old raise this kid that he had with a serial killer. And it's a comedy. It's a comedy that was like on Fox years ago, and it's hysterical. But anyway, yeah, so that's all right. So yeah, they don't know what they're doing. They're figuring it out. When does like your drinking turn to drugging? But like, I know it is alcoholically already at 11, because if like we said, you're having a rough day at school.
right.
What are you being bullied for?
Because I was like chubby growing up.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
samesies.
was the chubby kid, and so basically, yeah, that was it. So I got bullied kind of a lot for that, and then I just kind of never knew how to like fit in, right? Like I never knew how to make friends. We also moved a lot. Like by the time that I graduated high school, I had gone to 12 different schools. So not only do I have all of this trauma, crazy stuff going on at home, but my father was involved in a little bit of like criminal activity. My family's from Sicily. So my father was involved with a little bit of activity, and it was like we would have to move really quick, right? So it'd be like, okay, we're moving from Georgia to New Hampshire. Okay, we're moving from New Hampshire to Florida. Like it's not like we were moving like around the block. Like we're
Yeah.
making very quick moves across the country, and then not being able to tell anybody what's going on.
That
And
makes
I
sense.
think it has, I'm sure it's in a lot of other cultures, but especially in the Italian culture, we do not talk about our problems outside of the house. Like
No.
our problems are our business, and nobody else is going to know about it. So it's basically like, what do they call the elephant in the room, right? We just
Yeah.
want to keep
When
walking around.
Italians are together for like Christmas and holidays or whatever, or parties, they're talking about each other but not about their own business. You know,
Right.
they're talking about what the cousin or the aunt or the
Yes.
uncle did, but they're not talking about what our families do, and it's the other inner families is what you're talking about. Because,
Right.
like, you know, I grew up with plenty of Italian friends in Jersey. I know how those parties go.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is not a lot of sharing, you know, personal information and getting vulnerable.
Right.
You
Right.
know, that's
Exactly.
definitely, and it still really hasn't changed much, you know. Okay, so that makes sense. Now you're moving around all the time, especially in high school. You can't even find like a way to like fit in because were you trying like new Jamies everywhere you went?
Oh, everywhere. I'm telling you, like my first way of like coping was imagination. Every time I would move somewhere, I'm like, okay, this time in this place, I'm going to be this person, and this is going to be my new identity, and everybody's going to love me. you know,
Yeah.
always trying to figure out ways, creating these like new lifestyles. I mean, I would like write books when I was like 13. I'm writing these like short stories, you know what I mean? Trying to like figure out ways to live in like this fantasy world so I don't have to cope with my life, and then acting out these fantasies like as if they're like real, you know what I mean? Like, oh yes, I'm really moving because my father's in the Secret Service. you know, and trying to convince myself of these. And you
Yeah.
know, but it was when I was in high school that I found drugs and alcohol to be my solution. That was the first time when it really clicked, you know? And I remember this so clearly. I was at this party and I was so uncomfortable in my own skin. I had so much anxiety, and I was drinking boons, you know, those like colored
The
well, I
Boone
think
Farm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. I remember Boone
yeah.
Farms. Yeah.
So I'm drinking boons and I'm smoking weed, and all of a sudden something clicked in my brain, and I was funny, and I was charming, and I wasn't insecure, and people wanted to talk to me, and it felt good. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is the missing key of my life. And that's when everything kicked off. I was probably like 16 years old.
How many high schools did you go to all in all? Was it just one or was it multiple?
I went to just one high school.
And was that probably the easiest crowd to find your way in with is like the drinking and drugs crowd because they're going to accept you for and you can now cheat and do something that makes you more comfortable with the people that already accept you for doing that, right?
Exactly. And I had a car. So, you know.
Were you in high school in New Hampshire or Georgia or
In New
Florida?
Hampshire.
Okay, so that was in the middle of nowhere high school, so that was important to have a
Right.
car in New. That's why I was asking because sometimes you could be in a city and like having a car is like one thing, but yeah, in New Hampshire, you definitely needed a car to get around. Now, did that play in the part? Like, were there any kind of drinking and driving incidents like during high school, or did you get out of that? Like, luckily with none of that.
No, I didn't have any kind of incidents like that. The only thing that I got in trouble for in high school was I got really high on meth, and me and my girlfriend had this like whole crime ring thing where we were like stealing from like JC Penney's and then like returning. So we would drive like all over the state to all these different JC Penney's because you could return up to $100 for cash without a receipt. So we would go and we would just like steal and then return. And one time I was so high on meth that I went back to the same JC Penney I just stole from like 10 minutes before and like walk in.
You like walk over from like grabbing it off the rack, like I want to return this. This doesn't fit. Like, man,
Yeah.
we have you on camera walking in and grabbing it.
Yes. Yes. So,
Oh my
and the
God.
worst part about that was at the time, my father was security for JC Penney in the next city.
Of course he was.
Of course he was. And so I was like, please don't tell my dad. Please don't. And of course they did, you know.
How did your dad go from like lower level La Cosa Nostra associate to like JC Penney's security?
Trying to get trying to get out the game.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom really put the.
Yeah.
Once we got older, you know what I mean? She was tired of moving. That's why we got to stay in New Hampshire for a whole 5 years.
It's like, come on, we moved around enough. And I get the moving thing. You know, like in addiction, I moved 15 times in 15 years. You know what I mean? And the most stable it's ever been in my life, you know, besides now, was the 12 years that I lived in the same house from first grade to 12th grade. So, like, what everybody always asks me, like, I have a tattoo of a street sign on my arm of 4th Avenue, and that's the place where I lived the most, because I was always, they're like, why do you have like a beat up street sign? I'm like, because that's where I actually had roots, and I actually lived there, and I had friends that were around it. Because having a friend that lived around the corner, you don't do that when you move around all the time, because you're like, what's the point?
Right.
I'm just gonna leave anyway. I'm just get a friendship going and then up and go. No. So I can't imagine as a kid, because that's what I was isolating as an adult. And as a kid, you're automatically isolating because you really don't have the tools, especially there's no internet. There's no, you know, iChat or whatever, like FaceTime, or, you know, keeping in contact with these friendships that you're attaining as a child. So, because AOL Instant Messenger didn't become popular until you might have been already a teenager.
Right. Yeah, dial up. Dial up, and it took forever to get on there anyway.
Yeah. Especially, I'm sure, with, you know, you had a younger brother and sister and everything in the house. Like, it's not just one person trying to get on there. There's 3, plus your parents trying to get on there.
Right.
All right. So now New Hampshire, you're moving all around. What happens after high school? Do you get out of there?
So after high school, I actually graduated high school. I was a really good student. I mean, I did, you know, I was like student council, assembly committee. I was in theater. I was in chorus. I did very well. I was like a performance-based kid, you know what I'm saying? Like try to like win my parents' love and approval with good grades. And so after that, I went to a college. Now, I had gone to a frat party at Plymouth State College, which is one of the biggest party schools in New England. And so I went to a frat party there my senior year in high school, and I was like, oh my God, I have got to go to this college. Like, this is amazing. So I ended up going there, and I lasted about 3 weeks. Yeah, it was about 3 weeks. You know, I went there and I was like, oh my goodness, like there's alcohol, there's parties, there's boys, I have no curfew. Like, this is the life. And after about 3 weeks, I ended up just dropping out. I mean, I couldn't get to class. I had also picked up a little bit of a cocaine habit the summer before I went to college. Just a little bit.
I'm in New Hampshire. There's snow. I might as well. You don't bring snow to the snow, Jamie.
Right. So I was missing my cocaine because the college was like 2 hours away from my hometown, you know. I missed my friends. I was back in that place where it was like, man, I feel like I can't fit in, my social anxiety, you know. All I know how to do is get trashed and end up in some guy's dorm room, you know what I'm saying? And it just wasn't all that I thought it was going to be. And, you know, I really didn't give it a chance. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to go back home and be back with my friends. And
yeah, you wanted it to be one way, and then you got something different. And then instead of just being patient and let it play itself out and trust in the process, you ran from it and started a pattern of running, I'm assuming.
Yes.
To where you're like, my dad ran, so now I'll run.
Right.
I get that.
I never thought of that. That's like, man, you just, yeah. Wow. That's true. That is very true in so many aspects of my life. And also, you know, for me, like another reason that I always, you know, chose the drugs too is because of you know, my weight issues, right? I mean, now as I grew up, my weight issues, you know, weren't like they were when I was little, but I still had that in my brain. So when I was using, I was trying to, curb my appetite. I was trying to not eat. I was trying to, that was one of the first things I used when I was 15. I started taking diet pills, and got that whole, feeling of changing the way I feel. Plus, I'm able to starve myself. When I was in high school, I remember I starved myself for 16 days in a row. And I thought that it was the greatest accomplishment. Like, I was like, yes, I'm so proud of myself. I didn't eat for 16 days.
And you're at the age too where also at that time, like that was like the cool thing to do. Like that's what was on even TV. That's like I love the show Friends, right? And you look back at Friends, and they're a great example of giving up horrible body images to teenagers and women in their 20s and 30s back in the 90s. And one of my favorite comedians is Nikki Glazer, and she's late 30s, early 40s, and she talks about how she had a lot of problems with eating disorders in their teens because of all the body dysmorphia from all the media at the time. It's all like supermodels and this and that. You have to be rail thin. They want to see your backbones. They want to see it's all the ridiculous things. And for you, and a lot of it had to do, I had a lot of problems too with it, and I still do. I'm not a skinny guy. But I think a lot of it has to do with getting changed for gym starts in like 4th grade. And I think that adolescence of getting changed for gym, whether, you're a girl or a boy, it's the first time that you're seeing the other person, and then the body image change comes into play because you're getting made fun of. Right. And a lot of the times, neither of us have even grown into our bodies yet. Right. And you're being made fun of, and, for things that you shouldn't even try to control yet. You shouldn't be trying to control your weight yet in 4th or 5th or 6th grade. Like, that's something that will work itself out as you hit your puberty and everything works itself out, metabolism.
Right.
You shouldn't have to worry about dieting and eating right and being so regimented in 4th and 5th grade. But it happens because of the body images you get from the locker rooms. Right. And then how they hear people get made fun of, so they think it's okay to say something. So I think that's where a lot of it will start, and then you don't ever really learn any other way of how to look at yourself, really, because these are all those first things that we're teaching ourselves. Like I said, with the how we would teach ourselves bad habits with body images from seeing it on the media. We can only learn what we don't want to ask for help either. We're the oldest, so we're really just trying to find our own way through it.
And that negative self-talk too. I mean, I will say the meanest things to myself that I wouldn't say to my worst enemy. And it's terrible.
Yeah. And I say some mean things to some people sometimes because I'm a very blunt person, and I still don't ever say anything half as mean as the things I say to myself. When I did stand-up comedy, I always made fun of my weight, because if I made fun of my weight, you couldn't make fun of me for it because I'm already doing it. You can't make fun of me because I'm already making fun of myself. Right. Kind of thing. There's a lot of things that a lot of us do, to be subconscious. So, and for years it was controlling your eating, because like I said, how we kind of spun out of, went on a rant a little bit, was the early 2000s. That was that can be zoned in on as a body image, epicenter of problems. And I'm sure you weren't alone. I'm sure there was other women that you're friends with, or you were friends with then, that were going through the same struggles.
Oh, yeah. We were all like, oh, did you try these diet pills? Oh, I got these diet pills. One time my mom found them in my drawer, and she thought it was like heroin or something. What is this?
And what was her reaction when you told her, oh, no, they're just diet pills?
I guess she was relieved, at that time. But she found all kinds of stuff through me. My poor mom.
I remember one time my mom found a pack of my cigarettes, and she put them in the freezer. She put them in tinfoil and put them in the freezer. When I asked for them back, I was like, they weren't mine. I was holding on to them for a friend, And she was like, okay. And she gave them to me, and they were in the freezer. Like, what the hell did you put them in the freezer for? I mean, they were nice and fresh. I'm not mad at it. I've just never put my smokes in the freezer since, though. But it's still, but my wife said her mom did it before, too. I said, it must be something from the 50s or the 60s. I have no idea. So, Now you drop out of college. Where do you go when you dropped out? Do you go back home?
I did. I went back home, moved in with this boyfriend. The boyfriend that I was with, previously went, and that was another cycle of codependency, right? That comes with addiction. So I'm with this guy, and the crazy thing about that part of my life was, so I went home. I went to a community college, so I'm doing it right. I'm working. I was waitressing at the time. I pretty much waitressed like my whole life until I got into my career now. And so I'm waitressing and I'm going to school. I'm doing well, okay? And I had gotten into like a car accident in high school, and I get this settlement, right? I get this settlement of like $5,000, and it happened like just the week before I had went to my first rave. So for like a month, me and my friends went to like raves, and we were all jacked up on like ecstasy. G, like, oh my goodness.
I already knew you were gonna, because I went right to the thought of early to mid 2000s, right?
Yes.
Is that when it was? And I always think of ecstasy being through the roof then, because of Bad Boys 2, the movie Bad Boys 2. Will Smith is all about the ecstasy dealer, and that was like 2002 or something like that. So that's how I can always pinpoint when E was huge.
Yes. I was like, big into the rave scene. So I was the girl who was like, I was starting all the massage trains, like messed up on ecstasy. I had the Janko jeans, the glow sticks. Like I was like all in it, listening to the techno music.
I wish you had some pictures of that for me to put across the screen right now. Some Janko jeans.
I know.
Janko jeans.
I know, right? I don't.
For those younger listeners that don't know what Janko jeans are.
Yeah. Yep. And so I went through that scene for a little while, which really brought me into the crystal meth scene, where I got like pretty heavy into crystal meth and just partying, all over partying. And things just started to progress. I was always working. That was the thing. I would work, but then I would like have to like steal from my job, you know what I mean? And like things would happen, and then I would quit the job and go get another job. And it was like a terrible cycle. Stayed in like the bad relationship for a while, but I was still like able to work, try to like support my habit. I actually graduated college through all of this craziness. I got my associate's degree in business science and psychology, was going for my bachelor's in international business. I mean, still living with my parents. And, I went on like that for like several years, just partying all the time, but still being able to somewhat maintain. And then everything was great until like, I got pregnant. And then, you can't do drugs anymore when you're pregnant. I mean, you can, but you
can, you can't. Yeah, you can, you can't. It's a
right.
giant gray area. I mean, it's like smoking cigarettes. You can and you can't.
Right.
Like you shouldn't. The baby will be healthier.
Right.
A lot better chance of even having a baby, and you not dying.
Right.
So yeah, like a lot of things, you can and you can't. So did you stop, or did you continue?
So I stopped after a couple months. It did take me like 3 months to kind of like get it together. It was probably about 2 months. And then my family did a quick move to Fort Lauderdale.
And because how old are you at the time now?
23.
So you're pregnant at 23, and who is the dude?
His name was Pete. He actually is the father of both my children.
Okay.
So I make a quick move to Fort Lauderdale with my parents. I'm working down there. I'm doing well. He's still in New Hampshire because he got in trouble for selling dope to an undercover or something. So
you can't do that anymore?
You can't, yeah. I guess not. So he got a couple months in jail for it. It wasn't like it was like, I think it was like a 1/4 ounce of weed or something. It wasn't anything like, super major.
Yeah.
So, I go to Florida. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm doing well. I'm staying sober. I have my son get back with the baby daddy. He comes back, and he brings a crack habit with him. So I learned about that.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Right. So I learned about that. Within a couple months, I ended up giving my son to my mom because I just couldn't do it. We lived like 2-3 hours away. Me and the baby daddy broke up because who can have a healthy relationship when you're stuck on crack, right? Yeah. So he ended up leaving. It was crazy too because look, he was a carpet surfer. So he was like always in the carpet, and I was always peeping out the window. It was
like a bad. You're like a bad movie. You're like a bad episode of Breaking Bad that no one wants to watch. Just
yeah. It was like the most interesting dynamic. One time I was peeping out the window, and the neighbors were peeping back at me.
Yeah, going, yeah, honey, she's fucking looking at us again. No, I don't see him, but I'm pretty sure he's on the carpet still.
Yeah, that was like the most memorable time of my crack addiction. I call that the
you had
worst
enough
year.
time to have another baby with him.
Yes, 6 years later.
Oh, 6 years later. Jamie.
6 years later,
Okay.
we had another baby. We were one of those on again, off again, really bad episodes.
Adorable.
And yeah, so
So now you're off again, yeah.
Yeah, so we're off again. I decide I'm gonna go into a whole new lifestyle now. I'm going to go work in the club scene. So I started dancing, working in that whole club scene, started prostituting, doing all that.
Were you down in Miami?
I was in Sarasota and Tampa at the time.
Oh, so you're down. You're like,
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Grabbing up those tourists coming in.
Huh?
That's like a lot of tourists down there, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Big money. Big money. So I end up going back to school, and so I go back to school to get my massage license because that seemed like it was a good idea, right? I had like a friend who did it. He pretty much made up his own schedule. He worked during the day, got really fucked up at night, and I was like, this is the life for me. Made a lot of money. Like, let me try this. And the cool thing was, what happened was when I started school, I actually really liked it. I actually found something because I had gone to school forever, for so many different things. I went, for business management, international business psychology, all these things. And I could do them and it was fine, but it was nothing that I had like a passion for, right? But when I found massage therapy, I found a purpose in my life. And I was really good at it. And I would get requested by like the president of the school and all my teachers. And I got to do this really cool internship with the Tampa Bay Bucks. And it was really awesome. I was really like on my way, right? And I really felt that once I got my massage license, I would be able to be like free, right? I would be able to be free to afford to be a mom, afford to take care of myself, be independent, not have to be stuck in one codependent relationship after another one, right? Because I would be able to have like the finances to be able to take care of myself for once. And so, and the freedom of having my own business, right? And making really good money. And so I really immersed myself in that, but I was still using, you know what I mean? I was drinking like a 24 pack and doing cocaine. The thing was that I liked school so much that I did not drink or do cocaine till after school, till after I did my homework and after I studied.
Well, that's because it's a learned behavior from 5th grade. You got your homework done and then you got drunk like a responsible middle school kid.
Right.
So that's good that you taught yourself that at a young age and it carried on through college.
Mm-hmm.
So were you able to finish this round of college as well then, since you were being so studious?
So I did so good, and right, I think it was a month before I graduated, my dad had died. So that, of course, put me in this like terrible spiral. I picked up the crack pipe again. I started like prostituting a lot, and I actually got arrested the day before my graduation in a huge prostitution sting. They made an example out of me, put me on the news for 3 days straight. It was so embarrassing. I just remember, like, I was in this hotel, and
When was this?
guy, huh?
When was this? Like, how
This
old
was
were you?
in 2006, so I was 26 years old.
Okay.
So this is 2006. I go to this hotel to do this call, right? Because I had like a Craigslist ad, right? And the guy's being like all weird, talking to me about like, well, what can you buy on Craigslist? Like, bro, what do you mean? What can you buy on Craigslist?
What couldn't you buy on Craigslist in 2006? Is the real Tiger King, I think, got started on Craigslist in 2006. Like anything you wanted.
Exactly. So I knew there was something weird going on. Like there was a laptop in the room, there was a broken mirror, and I was like, I think this guy's gonna kill me. He's either gonna kill me or I'm about to go to jail. You know, I knew something wasn't right. I went to go run out the door, and you know the adjoining doors to like the hotel rooms, this door swings open and like 25 police and reporters come out with cameras and like everything. And I just remember like
They brought the
back.
news with them.
Yes. It was the fucking guy from Dateline. It was huge. The whole hotel was shut down. Everybody in the hotel was just like paid to be there. Like that was part of the whole crew. It was a huge thing. You can find
for you,
that.
Jamie.
You can find that. You can find my mugshot. You can find the little article. Oh my gosh.
Mugshot. You got it. Writing that down for later. I'll interject that in here.
Yeah, it was the worst. I used to call it the worst day of my life, but now I feel like, you know, it was really just a turning point for me, you know?
Well, but then again, your sober date's not for another 9 years, so you know it wasn't enough for you to be like, I gotta change my ways now at 26.
No,
It was like, how do I find a way around my ways to keep my ways a coming? Because we're talking a lot about crack and meth, ecstasy, and other things, coke. But I'm thinking Florida, 2006. Do you and when do you or did you ever get involved with opiates down there? Because how could you not be involved with opiates during that time in Florida?
Very little, but it wasn't until I moved in 2008 to Georgia that I switched from cocaine to pain pills because I could function and I wasn't stuck in the bathroom.
Yeah,
right?
no, I hear that. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right. So that's
2006. Now, okay. So what's the fallout of this arrest when they're trying to make an example of you? Do they throw the book at you too when it comes to sentencing?
They tried to. However, the guy continuously asked me, "Are you trading money for sex?" And I continuously said, "No, I'm not a prostitute. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I'm just here to hang out." You know what I'm saying? At least I was like I recognized, and so because of that, I got a lawyer. They were not able to get me with it. I ended up having to plead out to battery on an undercover because when I tried to run out the room, I tried to like knock it, so I had to take that. I ended up getting 6 months probation. It was like really nothing. Yeah.
They didn't get what they wanted to get out of it, that's for sure, with all the money they spent on that kind of bust.
Oh, I think there was like 5 5 other people that got busted. So
I think Family Guy covered it best. Family Guy did a like they do cutaways on the show all the time, like funny things. And one of them was about how, like, technically, if there would have been a camera in the room, you could have said you were recording, and the payment was for recording the sex, and that's the loophole that, you know what I mean? Of, like, that's why you can get paid to be a performer. And it's like, I never even realized that. Like, technically, it is the same difference, but you all of a sudden you put a couple more guys in the room with cameras, and now it's not prostitution. And
right.
it's, you're making a film. And
That's
it's so
yeah. They used to always say like, "Oh, we trade roses." Like we trade roses or flowers.
That's definitely Craigslist. Roses was definitely Craigslist. That was what. Oh my
Yes.
God. Okay, so now you get that probation. What is it that takes you up to Georgia eventually in 2008?
My mom moved.
Okay. So when
My
your
mom
dad passed, your mom moved up to Georgia. Is that where she was originally from?
Yes, that's where her family is. Yeah.
That makes
So
sense then.
Mhm.
And you just and she had your son then, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So okay. So now you're like, okay, I need to get away from, this dude down here. I'll start
Right.
over up there.
Right. And so I tried to do good, I was working at a restaurant at an Applebee's waitressing at the time. But it's like wherever I went, I was still there, right? So
Look at that. Yeah.
so yeah, I'm drinking again, but not before long I realized that mom moved next door to a crack dealer. So I was back on that bus again. And I had gotten a job working at it's like this multicultural international kind of bar where
This episode is sponsored by MJ's Progress Not Perfection Meeting Center Association. We are in our meeting center where we do all these meetings for mental health and addiction. I can do this podcast anywhere. I can do this at home. I can do this in a closet. I can do this in a basement. It doesn't matter. All I need is somebody else to talk to about addiction and recovery. What I can't do from anywhere is help people with their addiction and their mental health problems. So if you can help out, we do have a Venmo, we have a Cash App, we have a PayPal, we have an address you can send a check to, and all the money that gets donated goes towards rent, goes towards keeping the lights on, and goes towards keeping the internet on. So please, if you can give $5, $10, $20, it doesn't matter. Anything you can is so appreciated. And if you are a local business, if you're a national business, whatever, and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you can reach out to me and we can talk about how you can be a sponsor. But I'll let you get back to the episode.
So I was waitressing, I was dancing on the bar, not naked dancing, just like dancing. And then you
like
did
Coyote Ugly.
Yes, like that. And then you did these dances. They're very like, they had all these girls in there that do these dances for $5. They will dance with a guy for $5, and it's not anything like like it's very like formal.
Do-si-do.
Yes, like formal old-fashioned
square
Colombian,
dance,
Brazilian salsa, all that kind of stuff. So it was, I did very well in there. I'm pretty sure it was just a front for some kind of cartel because there was so much cocaine in there. So, yeah.
That'll happen. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I talked to a guy recently, actually, because you probably have seen the movie Blow.
Yes.
I would imagine. And you lived in New Hampshire. I lived in Massachusetts for a little while, and in my addiction and before that, and I met a guy up there that I had on the show that his episode's coming out soon. He's 25 years clean, but he was doing coke in Massachusetts in the 80s. That was coming from George Young.
That was coming from who?
George Young, the guy from Blow that was coming from Columbia to Massachusetts, yes. And that was smuggling it. Yeah, that's the cocaine he was getting in the 80s because he lived miles from Weymouth, where George is originally from. Wow. So I was like, damn, dude, no wonder why you needed some rehab after doing some pure, like nothing. Like whenever.
I'm like, man, we never got anything like that. You never got good stuff like that.
So what was your introduction to opiates then? Who introduced you to that?
So I switched over to opiates. I actually ended up getting arrested. I was in a house that got raided. And of course, they come in, and I actually did an episode on my TikTok about this where like they came in, and I'm trying to shove drugs in this like teddy bear, all my drugs or whatever. The house is full of drugs. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those trap houses that have no electricity, no running water. I'm of course dating the drug dealer, because if you had drugs, we were dating, right?
Aw.
And so I ended up getting arrested. I ended up spending 20 days in jail. That was my first time I ever spent some time in jail. And when I got out, I actually stayed clean for like a month. I ended up, all the charges ended up getting dropped because the guy whose house it was, the boyfriend, he ended up pleading guilty to all the charges. And so I ended up staying clean for about a month. And then, I got another job waitressing. I was working at IHOP, met some people there, and they did pills. There was no crack in there. So I started doing pills, and that for me was another solution. Like, hey, I can go to work. They give me energy. They make me feel good. I could work like 18-hour shifts and not hurt in my body, right? And this is great.
Did you know that they weren't supposed to give us energy like they did? Like,
No.
I've seen other people take Roxy's and they don't get energy like we did. It's like, I could clean the house.
Yeah.
I could do so much. Like, I could drive for hours. Like,
Yeah.
but somebody else that's not an addict, I've seen them take one and they're just like dead. They're just dunzo, out cold. Like,
That's crazy.
Yeah. The addicts though, we're just like, yeah, give me more. This is what this is what I want. So was it like Roxy's that you got into?
No, actually the first things that I got into were like Percocets and just Lortabs. Those were like the first things that I did, and they were not expensive. I worked with a bunch of older ladies, so I really had like the hookup with the older community.
You were getting them straight from their script from their doctor, and they weren't selling them to anybody. They were just taking them and like, oh, she's a good girl. Jamie just needs a couple to get through the day. I sell them to her for $5.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I was getting them for like $3. I had the hookup like $2-3,
Yeah. I don't want to take advantage of you, Jamie. Here's a good price.
Right. And
that's where taking a huge
where I also learned about, I can go to the doctor myself and I can get prescriptions, and so the first time I got in a accident and got some whiplash, right? I got a little accident, nothing major. I got some whiplash. I ended up going to get, they gave me an MRI, of course, because I went to the ER, all that stuff, right? And so I ended up going to this pain clinic. It was a sports medicine pain, whatever, in Snellville. And I go and I'm in there for 10 minutes and this doctor starts touching me. And I'm like, what is going on? He's like a young guy, like it just totally unexpected, totally blew my mind. And it was very awkward. It was weird. I get done. He gets done with the consultation, okay, or whatever.
Like touching like your back or your neck or like.
Breasts.
So he wasn't even like, he was inappropriately touched, not like touching you, like examining doctor. Like he's like, I'm gonna give you something, so you're not gonna say shit. So this is what it is.
Yes. So he starts touching my breast within like the first 10 minutes. Then I go to, to check out or whatever, and he hands me a script of 60 Oxy 80s. And I didn't even know what an Oxy was, but I found out very quickly that I could make a lot of money off of these Oxys. And so I kind of started this, relationship with this doctor, and he would let me come during lunchtime, right? When everything was closed, we would have sex. He would give me scripts. I would bring my girlfriends. He would have sex with them and give them scripts. And that was it, and I was just selling pills. I got into the selling pills. I mean, we were selling so many pills, and we had this whole network of people. I had, there was like 8 of us, right? And we all knew when each person was going to the doctor, what day they were going. Hey, do you need a ride? I'll bring you to the doctor. You know what I mean? Like, how are we going to get clean pee for the doctor? Or you need like the pee with just the specific drug in it. You know what I'm saying? We had this whole network of people in on this whole, doctor shopping thing. And we were making a lot of money, and it was great. But then one day I was like, let me try these Roxy's. Let me try them. Like, what is it, And, they showed me, you can sniff them, right? At the time I was just sniffing them. And then what happened was that second round with baby daddy, and I got pregnant. And by this time, I am stuck on pain pills and pregnant. So that was really hard. I was guilt-ridden. I didn't do any other drugs, just pills. And I did have a prescription from like my OB. I ended up getting a script for like some Percocet 5s from my OB for like some general pain stuff. So
this way, if you piss dirty, you wouldn't get in trouble from CPS because you're supposed to have this in your system.
So I was, it was probably one of the hardest times of my life, because I had so much guilt and shame. I wanted to tell somebody, I wanted to stop, but I didn't know how to. I'm scared. What if I do stop and then I have withdrawals and then I lose my baby? Like, how do I do this? At 7 months pregnant, I ended up coming clean to the OB. It was not like it was now. Like now, if you come clean to a doctor and you're pregnant, they have peer support, they have services, they have all of this for you. Back in 2009, they didn't have this. And basically it was just, I was like shamed. And they said, well, we're going to, keep the baby for like 6-7 days, and we will, just monitor her and we'll see how she does. Well, they ended up taking her from me right away. Thank God that they gave custody to my mother. They gave custody to my mom. She ended up having to be in the NICU for 6 weeks. And she was in the NICU on phenobarbital and morphine. It was the hardest thing that I had ever been through. My family was so pissed at me. They were like, I can't believe that you did this, And I really wanted to stop. I wanted to, and that kind of, so my mom took my daughter, my mom let me, live at the house, but, she didn't really allow me to have anything to do with her. That did start me going into detox though. So that was just a couple months later. It's the first time I went to detox. And I went through that cycle about 8 different times, because every time I would get out of detox, I would think, okay, I'm cured. Now I can just go and party like everybody else, And of course, within 2 weeks, I'm detoxing again. And I'm like, how am I in withdrawals? I just got cured from this.
Yeah, it's crazy because it doesn't, go away, because my sober date, it's been, my sober date's February leap day 2020. So it's been, almost 2 years I haven't had a drink or a drink, but I haven't had a drug in 3.5. I got clean from opiates, which was my drug of choice in 2018. I had to slip up with drinking for a little bit, but the opiates thing, it'll be 4 years in April. And it's something that I could have never imagined at the time that I could go this long without any kind of, especially how we went from drinking to drugs for so long. Okay. So, and the whole treatment centers and in and out of detoxes. Oh, but that was my point. It's been almost 4 years, right? I got my gallbladder out last June, 3 years after the fact, a little over 3 years after, since I haven't had any drugs. They gave me fentanyl in the hospital. I told them not to, and they did anyway when I was under. I woke up in immediate withdrawals.
No
My
way.
I was thrown up for 18 hours.
Wow.
So they shot me with fentanyl twice and once with Dilaudid while I was under. And my body went into precipitated withdrawals. But yeah, because it's an outpatient surgery, and as soon as we got outside to the parking lot, my wife and I started getting sick and vomiting. Like I woke up and I said to the nurse, like, something's wrong. Like I feel funny. And she was like, "Oh yeah, that's like, the anesthesia." And I'm like, "No, this isn't anesthesia. This is like I'm high." And that's when the doctor walked in. He's like, "Oh yeah, you looked uncomfortable, so we had to shoot you up a couple times with fentanyl." I'm like, "Bro." So, yeah, that doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It wasn't fun. So, now you're in and out of treatments and detoxes and all that. What was it that, I would imagine you keep getting kicked out of your house too every time you withdraw or every time you relapse?
No, I mean, I would just leave. Like, I would go stay. I was living in all of these really terrible living situations, living with people who, were making me do things for drugs, you know what I'm saying? But it was like they had the drugs. And at this point, I'm so far in my addiction, I can't hold a job. I can't work. I can't be normal by any means, and so it was just like I was, there's periods of my time that I don't even remember. Like I remember going back to my mom's one day and my daughter was talking. And it was like, I swear when I just saw her, she was not talking. I was like, oh my God, like she can talk? Like when did that happen? Like I have no idea. It was just like lapses, like I don't even know. I would go off with this person, be gone for however long, go off with this person, be gone for however long, no idea like what's happening. Ended up getting in trouble like a couple more times, nothing like I got in trouble, but I didn't get any like consequences from it, you know what I mean? Until finally the last time that I got arrested. And that was what did I have? I had schedule 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on me. And
you got all of them.
Yeah, they were like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with all this? And I'm like, it's a Tuesday night, bro. Like, this is what we do, this is nothing, just a little bit of everything, just a little bit of everything. And it was then, that I got the sentence of the felony probation where I knew, I went in jail. And it was crazy because I went in the same jail that I did the first time for the same exact amount of time. It was 20 days in the same jail, the same amount of time. I swear the same people were in there. It was the craziest, like most supernatural, weirdest shit ever. And I knew that it was like, this was it. Like, it was like I like went around in this big old circle, like here I am again, and I was like, this time I need to do something different. And I was just sick and tired of waking up every day pissed off that I woke up. And started looking for a way to do something different.
Now, did you know your husband now then?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And when did you guys meet?
So we actually met last year. We met on a recovery collaboration. So Adam has a YouTube channel. I started my social media recovery platform during lockdown, during COVID. So I, here in Georgia, I'm a huge part of the recovery community. I'm a peer specialist for addictive disease and a recovery coach with Georgia Council on Substance Abuse. I'm also today a massage therapist. I have my own business. Yes, I have my own business. I also created a protocol for something called recovery massage. So I am able to assist people who are on medication-assisted treatment with stabilization and to help with tapering up or down, however that looks. And work on people in early recovery and also people who struggle with trauma. So I do all that in the recovery community. I created a wellness room at one of the nonprofits who work with women who are coming out of human trafficking and prostitution. And so I am very involved in the recovery community here in Athens. So during COVID, everything was locked down. I had to shut my business down. And all of my friends were struggling because they actually shut down the probation offices. So nobody was happy to report to probation. A lot of people, they had no accountability, right? Nobody's taking anybody in the treatment centers. It was just crazy. And so many of my friends were struggling. So I started doing these Facebook Lives, and I started doing some meetings through one of the nonprofits called Spiritual Fitness. And it was just, talking about different things in recovery, different topics, and so I kind of started this like social media online platform for recovery, and I got so much feedback. Everybody was reaching out to me like, man, you helped me so much. This is so hard. We're doing online meetings. Nobody can meet in person. It was just the craziest thing. We're in a pandemic, in the middle of an epidemic, and we can't just stop. So we have to find ways to reach people and support people virtually. And that's what I did. And I found Adam's channel. His channel is IFI Motivation. So I found his channel on YouTube. He actually had commented something on my post. I was writing a post on, it was kind of like a purity post, right? So it was about like how when you're first year in recovery, we should not hook up. We should take this time and pour it into ourselves and all this stuff. And he slaps on there a link for his video in the comments about 13th stepping. And I was like, who is this guy? And why is he commenting on my purity post about 13th stepping,
Yeah.
And then I went and watched the video and found that his message was actually the same as my message, but he was more like in the comedy realm of it. And I was like, man, this guy's really cool. Like, he speaks so boldly about recovery and so openly and honestly, and he's transparent and he's funny. And I bet a lot of my friends would really be able to relate to him. So I kind of started sharing his stuff. We started talking. I had just started my YouTube channel, and so he kind of helped me develop it. And he was going and doing, a tour, like a 3-state tour for motivational speaking for recovery. So he's like, hey, I want to come to Athens. And this was July 11th, 2020. And I set up something at one of the nonprofits where you're like, yeah, we're going to make some videos, collaborate. He's like, I'll show you all the ins and outs of YouTube. And I was like, cool. And that was it, man. We met July 11th, 2020. We were engaged by November 11th. And
Nice.
we just had our wedding October 10th.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That is awesome. I was at a wedding October 9th for my brother.
Oh, wow. It's a good month to get married.
Yep. Well, his birthday is October 10th, so it worked.
Cool.
Yeah, it worked out that way. But yeah, that's awesome though, because having somebody that you can collaborate with, to make videos with, make content with, but also like show you the ropes too of like equipment wise. Like people always forget when content creators are making this, like we have ring lights, we have other things, we have, microphones, we sometimes like, and everyone uses different things, and then you see somebody using some kind of equipment, you're like, what the hell is that?
Right.
So it's always good when you guys have the same kind of goals, you know what I mean, the same kind of wants and drives. And do you have a link tree for all of your things that you do?
Everything for me is you can just search hashtag Jamie Tall.
Okay, because I'll put it inside the description of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So they can, click on whatever and go to your Instagram or your Facebook or your TikTok or
Yes.
whatever that you have going and then your YouTube channel. What are you doing on your YouTube channel? I know you're telling your story. I know you've been putting up like episodes of like your story, right?
Yeah, right now, well, I just started a series on TikTok called Diary of a Drug Addict. And that's like TikTok is really just like my creative outlet. I did not expect my TikTok to blow up the way that it has, because TikTok is just like me having fun. You know what I mean? Like my YouTube, my Instagram, my Facebook is all like very serious. Like I'm talking about numbers of overdoses and how to get help and all this stuff. And TikTok, I'm just messing around talking about like crazy, stupid stuff that I did in my addiction.
Yeah. TikTok's great for that, though. It's been great, like, for support. You know, I've seen people that, you know, they've tried, you know, 12 steps. They tried different kind of fellowships and that kind of thing, and it didn't work for them. But it works for them to be on TikTok for 4 hours a day and watching different videos of people like you and me that we post for recovery, that are all like, you know, being positive and happy in recovery and showing that it's possible to live and be happy. Do you do any kind of fellowshipping?
So
You don't have to say which one for, you know, reasons of traditions, but
I grew, you know, the foundation of my recovery was definitely 12 step. And I've done all the step programs, you know what I mean? And I've done the steps for all of the programs. Mainly, I did NA, AA, Celebrate Recovery, a little bit of Double Trouble. And, you know, we have all recovery meetings here. So it's a little bit about where you can like talk about anything. You know, there's no like rules. You know, you can talk about anything.
That's ours. That's how our place is, where it's like more mental health based meetings where you can talk about your day, you talk about drugs, talk about alcohol, trauma. You know, we do have, like, Thursday night is LGBTQ night, where we have like a youth group that comes in for LGBTQ that are, you know, already transitioning and all that kind of stuff. So, because that's what we do out of our meeting center for different kinds of, you know, arts and crafts is a popular one.
Yeah.
So
That's
people
awesome.
always forget about that. It's a really basic, you know, support group meeting that can be really beneficial for people.
It's so important because, like, you know, me coming up my first year, I feel like my first year in recovery, it was like 12 step or die. You know what I'm saying? Like that was it. And now there's like so many different pathways. My best friend is a yoga teacher and she does yoga recovery. You know what I mean? That's so cool. Fitness is a huge pathway for me. Like I exercise, I run. That for me is huge. Also, another pathway for me is service. Like I've really found, I call it like my love language in recovery. And service for me is like my love language. Like that is how I love people, and that is how I stay sober, by serving in all these different ways, whether it be in massage, whether it be in me telling my story, whether it be, you know, me like facilitating meetings at one of the recovery community organizations, teaching classes at the treatment center. I mean, all of these things is just like me serving. So I'm like, I do like my fellowshipping. It's like I went through seasons, right? So I went through like a season of this fellowship and a season of this fellowship. And then I went through a season of like speaking. I was like speaking all over the place, like a different meeting every week I'm speaking at, you know?
But that's good, though. I think that our recovery should almost kind of mirror our addiction in a way, like that. If it was chaotic, then it could be chaotic. You know, if, you know, you bounced around with different drugs of choice, then why wouldn't you bounce around with different fellowships?
Yes.
You know, it's you know, when, and also not to mention, and I put a lot of stock in how much I moved. Not everybody does that, but when you move around, like I said, when you're growing up, you're constantly moving. So that means you're used to learning on the fly. You're used to learning something and then moving, learning something new, moving and learning something new, and then so on. So that's how your brain learns and understands things. So why wouldn't you bounce around fellowships? That's your pattern. That's how you understand things. You learn it, you master it, you move on to the next one that you can learn and master.
Yeah, so true. That explains it. I'm learning so much today. You're like putting it all out in front of me. I'm like, wow.
Have you been to therapy yet? Some of this is told you in therapy. So it depends on your therapist.
Right.
But, you know, well, for me, it's the moving thing is a big deal, and I do notice those kinds of patterns because that is my pattern. I'm only saying those things too because they've been said to me, right?
Okay.
Like that's the
Yeah.
only reason I can ever point them out is because someone has said to me, "Oh, you do that because of this," and I'm like, "Son of a bitch," you know. So now, whenever I see myself in somebody, I'll point it out. So whenever you're watching my show or listening to my show and you hear me point something out, and then you, the guest, being like, "Oh my God, I never realized that. You're absolutely right." Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'm not a fucking genius. I didn't go to school for this. It just means that I did that too, and that's why I
Yeah.
see it and I call it. I'm not, I don't try to claim to be. I didn't go to school for this. I'm just somebody who is a drug addict, just like you, Jamie. Bounced
Yeah.
around and trying to find myself, and still trying to find myself, and now trying to find myself in the recovery.
So are you like a peer coach or recovery coach or anything?
No, I'm just an alcoholic.
You would be so good at
I
it.
know. I'm told that. We have a lot of peer specialists that come to our meetings.
Mhm.
One of our board members, they are a peer specialist and they do peer support. So they were telling me about it, and I looked into it, and I'm still considering it. My wife was considering it. She was just diagnosed with MS in August, so she's kind of like trying to figure out her meds right now for herself. But I basically am without getting paid to be it, right? Like I'm a sponsor for people in the program. I do AA in the morning, I go to NA at night, and I have people in both fellowships that, come to me that want to go through the steps. So, and it's also because when I got sober, I talked to therapists multiple with an S because I found it so helpful. So I would talk to a therapist that only went to school for this and she learned everything that she knew about, addiction and treatment through books because she had all the book answers. But then I would want to talk to the therapist that was once also an addict because then he is taking the book and equating it to him. Basically, a peer specialist. I didn't know that was even a thing until recently, but I was basically looking for a peer specialist and a therapist. But I
Right.
also wanted my therapist to be women because I open up easier with women than I do men. And I think that has to do with growing up in the 90s and opening up to men. And open up to women was easier because you're not supposed to open up and be vulnerable to men. So for me, when I got the therapy, it was easier to open up to a woman than a man. And it
Mhm.
has a lot. I was telling somebody recently, it wasn't until like Sopranos that we learned it was okay to cry, that it was okay to be vulnerable as men. That was the first time that you saw a powerful figure like Tony Soprano. This is a mob boss that kills people on one hand, but is sitting here with this woman going, my mom just driving me crazy, and talking about his mommy issues you know
Mhm.
and I'm 13 years old and watching my dad watch this, and my dad's your dad's age, because I did the math on that. My dad is born in 62.
Mine too.
So yeah, I did the math. So of him being 15 when he had you. So my dad is watching this, and for the first time he is also seeing a big male figure who is and what Analyze This came out the same time with Billy Crystal and Robert De
Oh, I remember
Niro.
that.
And again, he goes mafia boss to a shrink. So this is late 90s, the first time that I can remember it being okay to like show emotions and to openly talk about your feelings as a
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So, we're all just products of what our parents could learn or what they knew, but it wasn't much. I don't know much, and I'm a parent now. I'm figuring this shit out as I go.
Yeah.
So, do you get
How old
your
are
kids?
your kids?
I only have 7, and I came in his life when he was 5.
Awesome.
So we co-parent with his dad. He goes to his dad's on the weekends, and we have a pretty good schedule where if his dad needs us to take him for a day or vice versa, we openly communicate well with him and have a good back and forth relationship with his dad, because that's
Oh,
what's really important, is making sure
oh
that
yeah.
that transfer is not awkward between them. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just sometimes it can be a lot, especially for a couple. I can't even imagine, them having to be together for a decade to have a horrible breakup and then having to figure it out for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It is, but their dad lives in Massachusetts, and So, he gets them, the seasonal holidays, right? So it's like Christmas, 2 weeks in the summer, that kind of thing. My mom actually still has custody of my children. You know, when I came into sobriety, they had lived with her their whole life. So honestly, they wanted to stay with her.
I mean, again, yeah, and not to call you selfish, but it would have been selfish of you
right,
to be like, no, I want them.
exactly,
Now I want to be a mom.
right,
And it's
right.
like, fuck off. The kids want to be happy and not pulled from the school like you always were.
Exactly. And that's the thing, you know what I mean? It really was like acceptance, but because I love my children, I want them to be happy, you know what I mean? And they know they can come stay with me whenever they want to. They can talk to me. We have such a great relationship now. My daughter, who's 11, she's like my sunshine. I just love her. She's my biggest fan. Like, she is my biggest fan. This was so cute. I didn't even realize it. So I kept getting all these comments on my YouTube videos, right? From this little thing, this name called Del Sir. And I was like, Del Sir, like, who is this? And it kept saying like, great job, awesome video. And I was like, who is this Del Sir? And then after like the 6th or 7th one, like, this is like 2 weeks later, it says, it's me, Delilah, mommy. Oh my God. Like, you're commenting on my videos, like,
That's so
cute.
Awesome. That's so cute.
Yeah, so she's my biggest fan, like, and I'm super open with my kids. My son is 17. He's running into his own stuff, right? He's doing the 17-year-old thing, right? But the cool thing is that he talks to me about it. He's 100% open with me, and he knows that if things get too out of control, he knows where to go. And he knows, that there's a different kind of life when he's ready.
Yeah, and I think that fact that you put it out there as openly as you do is good. There's a lot of you are not obviously, I think this is no secret, you're not the only mom that has children, and being sober.
Right.
And you're not the only mom who is on social media that has children that know how to use social media also.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some that like want to be completely unidentifiable and do their thing, but they don't, they're not ready for the kids to know their story for whatever reason. But I think the more you are just like, here it is, as much as you don't want to see it, here it is. And this way they understand it, and it's you not hiding things. Because
right.
if you're hiding, guess what? They're going to go searching.
Yeah.
Nose up, like, nope, I caught a scent. There is something else that you're not telling me.
Uh-huh.
You're showing me this all cute little package thing over here, but what's this dark shiny thing over here I know you got back there? So you're better off to just be like, no, this is what it is. This is our life. Our son comes to our meeting center, and he knows what the meeting center is for at 7 years old. He understands this is how we have a happy mind, and how we don't, get mad and get upset as we talk about our feelings and talk about things with people all the time here.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a kids room. It's a super awesome, kids room. Dominic named it, and it has toys and books, and he hangs out with Dominic. Yeah.
That's my son's name.
With a K at the end.
Dominic.
With IK at the end is ours. So my wife wants to be a little bit different. So yeah, he has his kids room, and when other kids are here, they all play over there, and we have Wi-Fi here so they can play Switch or on the iPad or whatever too. But yep, so it's been going good. My wife said, yeah, I want it to be different with his name, so I did with just a K at the end. I'm like, well, I guess you're lucky we're not having any kids, because I want to name my son Sir, like Sir William be his name, like his first name Sir, middle name like William, like the 17th. And she's like, you can't do that. I'm like, you can write whatever you want on the birth certificate. You can do whatever you want. Like, I was like, I just want a little kid to be in first grade named Sir, and the teacher have to call him like, raise your hand, sir. Like, I just want to picture that. But thank you so much. I know you got stuff to do at 1:30 soon. Let your husband know if whatever day is good for him around like noon this week. Just let me know which day is good for him around noon that he can sit down for like an hour like this.
Okay.
But I appreciate you sitting down and talking for a little bit and opening up and
Yes.
being as open. If anyone wants to check out, your social medias, they're all going to be linked below in the description. And thank you again for what you do for everybody down there in Georgia. It's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. And maybe you can come on my show too next time.
Whenever you're ready, I am ready.
Yay.
All
Awesome.
right. I'll
Thank
see
you.
you. All
All
right.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.